Hello, good morning, children. The Open Window by Saki is a 1914 short story about Frampton Nuttall, who is frightened by the fanciful lies of his new neighbor's niece, Vera. So, who is the writer of the story? Saki. It was written in 1914. It's a short story about Frampton Nuttall is frightened by the fanciful lies of his new neighbor niece Vera. So while visiting his neighbors, Frampton meets Vera, who explains that her uncle and his brothers in law drowned in Moor 3 years ago. Okay, and a hunting, they were on a hunting trip. So they went for what? They went for hunting. Her aunt leaves the window open because she believes they will eventually return. So when the hunters who actually only left that morning return, Frampton believes they are ghosts and fleas. Vera explains his departure as a result of his fear of dogs. So he's very afraid of dogs, triggered by the appearance of the hunter's spaniel. These are names of dogs, children. Okay. So Frampton Nuttall arrives at the home of the Sappletons with whom he is not acquainted. He is greeted by Vera, a self possessed 15-year-old girl who says that her aunt, Mrs. Sappleton, will arrive soon to greet him. Okay, children? So Frampton silently reflects. Reflects means he's thinking on his recent move to the area, which he refers to as a rural retreat. Rural means belonging to something like village area. His sister, who once lived here, had worried that he would seclude himself, live all by himself, all alone. Thus, she drafted up some letters of introduction so that Frampton could meet some of her local acquaintances. Acquaintances, people whom we know, are called acquaintances. Frampton, for his part, worries that these social visits will worsen his nerves. That means nerves are already weak, it'll become worst. And he notes that he's currently undergoing a nerve cure. When Vera inquires, Frampton reveals his lack of social contacts in the area as well as his sister's efforts to make introductions for him. Vera then notes that Frampton and his sister would not know about Mrs. Sappleton's great tragedy, which occurred 3 years ago. Frampton confirms his ignorance on the matter and feels surprised that tragedy could strike such a placid place. Vera gestures towards a large French window which has been opened despite the October weather. Frampton asks whether the open window is related to Mrs. Sappleton's tragedy. He's trying to inquire. Vera tells the story of the tragedy. On this day, 3 years ago, Mrs. Appleton's husband and her two younger brothers departed through the French window. They went through that window to go hunting for snipe across a nearby moor. Given the wetness of the prior summer, the softened earth swallowed up the three men who have never been seen since. So they never returned since then. In her grief, Mrs. Sappleton keeps the window open every day. That means she expects that one day they will come back. So therefore, she keeps the window open until sundown, until sunset, that is. For she still expects the three men to return from the hunt with their brown spaniel. Spaniel is the name of a dog. Mrs. Sappleton has told Vera of the manner of the departure. That means how they departed, how they went, with her husband carrying his white coat over his arm and her brother Ronnie jestingly remarking, jokingly saying, "Bertie, why do you bound?" Vera trembles as she finishes the story, at which point her aunt bursts into the room, apologizing for her lateness and expressing her hope that Vera has been amusing. So Mrs. Sappleton then remarks on the open window, noting that she has kept it open because she's expecting that the three men will return of her husband and brothers who have gone hunting for snipe. As she goes on discussing the topic of bird hunting, Frampton is horrified to witness her grief-stricken fixations. He tries to bring up other subjects, but Mrs. Sappleton is inattentive and continues to look at and beyond the open window because she thinks that one day they will come back with that hope. Actually, this suggests that Frampton is very, very optimistic, very, very hopeful, isn't he? Yes, and one should always be hopeful. That is what we learn from this story. Yes, children? Yeah, thank you.